Welcome to the Explainer. Today we're tackling a really mysterious and, let's be honest, often terrifying phenomenon, sleep paralysis. We're going to break down the science behind what feels like a real-life waking nightmare.
So let's just put ourselves there for a second. Imagine this. Your mind starts to wake up, you can open your eyes, you know where you are, but you try to move, and nothing. You can't even lift a finger. And as if that's not bad enough, you get this bone-chilling feeling that someone, or something, is in the room with you. That right there, that's the classic sleep paralysis experience.
So what is actually happening during these episodes? I mean, is it just a bad dream? Is it something supernatural? Or is there a scientific explanation for all this? Well, let's dive in and figure it out. Okay, so at its most basic level, sleep paralysis is this weird mismatch, a kind of a temporary glitch between your brain and your body. Your conscious mind boots up, it's online, but the message to turn your muscles back on, it gets delayed. So for a few moments, you're basically awake, but you're trapped inside a body that's still asleep. And yeah, as you can see from this chart, this experience is overwhelmingly scary. A whopping 90% of these episodes are filled with pure fear. Now, to put that into perspective, only about 30% of our regular dreams are considered nightmares. So this is something else entirely.
And what really cranks up the terror? For about 75% of people, it's the hallucinations. They tend to fall into three main buckets. You've got the intruder, which is that classic feeling of an evil presence. Then there's the incubus, this awful sensation of pressure on your chest, like you're being held down. And finally, these vestibular motor hallucinations, which can feel like you're flying or having an out-of-body experience. It's these incredibly vivid sensations that turn a weird brain glitch into a full-on horror show.
Okay, so why? Why does this even happen? To figure that out, we have to look at what our brains are up to when we're asleep, especially when we're dreaming. Believe it or not, your body paralyzes itself on purpose every single night. It's a state called REM Atonia. See, during REM sleep, that's when your dreams get really vivid, your brain sends out a signal to basically shut down your muscles. And it's actually a brilliant safety feature, right? It's what stops you from literally trying to fly or fight a monster in your sleep. So, sleep paralysis is essentially a glitch in that system. It's when this perfectly timed process messes up just for a second. Your conscious mind wakes up, but that protective paralysis, the REM atonia, it hasn't switched off yet. Your brain gets caught in this weird limbo between being awake and being in REM sleep. And this image really captures it perfectly. What you're seeing are brain recordings during an episode, and they show a mix of waves you see when you're awake, blended with the brain activity you see during REM sleep. So it's not one or the other, it's this true hybrid state where your dream world is literally bleeding into your reality. All right, so we get what's happening in the brain, but that brings up another question. Why does this happen to some of us and not others? Well, it turns out this little neurological glitch isn't totally random. This leads to probably the most important question for anyone who's ever gone through this. What actually triggers it? What makes a person more likely to fall into this bizarre mixed state? Well, after all that complex brain science, the answer, according to a ton of research, is actually pretty simple: poor and disrupted sleep. Things like insomnia, taking a really long time to finally doze off, or having a totally inconsistent sleep schedule, all of these things dramatically increase your chances of having an episode. So the key takeaway here is that it isn't just about the number of hours you're in bed. It's really about the quality and, maybe most importantly, the consistency of that sleep. If your sleep-wake cycle is all over the place, that transition out of REM sleep becomes way more vulnerable to this kind of glitch. What's also fascinating is that sleep paralysis hardly ever shows up alone. It's often part of a whole family of weird sleep experiences, these things that kind of blur the line between being asleep and being awake. And one of its most interesting cousins is lucid dreaming. You know, that's when you're in a dream and you suddenly realize, hey, I'm dreaming. Now, they might seem like total opposites, right? One feels like a trap, the other feels like a playground. But neurologically, they're related. The big difference really comes down to control. In sleep paralysis, you're aware of the real world but have no control. In a lucid dream, you're aware you're in a dream world and you often have lots of control. In fact, this connection is so real that some people, usually experienced lucid dreamers or those who get sleep paralysis a lot, they report being able to consciously flip from one state to the other. Just think about that. Being able to turn the absolute terror of paralysis
into the complete freedom of a lucid dream. That's incredible. And all of this science brings us to what I think is the most important part. Understanding this stuff isn't just about satisfying our curiosity. It's about empowerment. It gives us the tools to actually influence and manage these experiences.
You know, when researchers asked people what actually helped them prevent episodes, the number one answer wasn't some fancy medication or therapy. It was just making simple changes to their sleep habits. Things like keeping a regular schedule, improving their sleep environment, and even just trying a different sleeping position.
And what if an episode happens anyway? Well, you're not totally helpless. A lot of people have found a really effective trick. Instead of fighting the paralysis with your whole body, which is impossible, you focus every ounce of your mental energy on moving just one tiny thing, like a single finger or a toe. Often, that's enough to break the spell and wake your body up. So in the end, sleep paralysis shifts from being this terrifying supernatural attack to what it really is, a predictable, unpleasant, but ultimately harmless neurological event. When we strip away the mystery, we get to replace all that fear with knowledge. And that turns a waking nightmare into just another fascinating and, more importantly, manageable quirk of our amazing sleeping brains.